Okay, so this is my commentary on the pilot episode of Frasier, entitled The Good Father. Now, if you haven't seen this episode, I don't want you to listen to this audio, but if you have, please enjoy. All right, so in this first episode titled The Good Father, a play on the original episode entitled The Good Son, Frasier comes back to Boston to give a lecture at Harvard University. This is where his nephew David attends classes. Basically, at the airport, Frasier ends up meeting his friend Alan. Alan was a colleague of his back when he used to live in Boston. And so, this is all after he has laid his father to rest, Detective Martin Crane. However, before heading over to Harvard to do the lecture, Frasier decides to stop by his son's apartment and he talks to Freddie. Freddie's like, this is not a good time. This is where Frasier also meets Eve. And so Eve appears to be Freddie's girlfriend. Anyway, after that, Frasier decides to go and give his lecture at Harvard. And Olivia, who's the head of the department of psychology, she's like, listen, we need you here, Dr. Crane. Like, you could do so much. Frasier's like, listen, I'm not trying to move back. After that, they go to a local pub. Him, Olivia, and Alan, and they just sit down and talk. And basically, Frasier talks about the relationship between him and his son and it's strained. Anyway, Frasier comes up with the great idea to buy some steaks and cook food for him and Freddie so that they can have a little bit of one-on-one time and talk. But then David comes in, and then Alan and Olivia. But Alan and Olivia have Frasier's back, and they're like, listen, we'll cook the food. You can have more time with Freddie. He's like, all right, bet. So anyway, Frasier tries to deal with Freddie, but then Eve ends up coming in, and Eve just starts acting weird. And this is because Freddie asked her to continue to playing along to the tune of, Be My Girlfriend. But anyway, after that, Freddie leaves the room, and Eve tells Frasier the truth and is like, listen, your son is great. He's been there for the both of us. And then Frasier walks into the kitchen. He's like, the both of us? What does that mean? And then Alan was like, hold on. I know where that girl Eve is from. Because earlier in the episode, he said, that girl looks familiar when he was in the kitchen. He's like, yes, I heard a story that she had a baby with a firefighter. And then everybody starts looking at each other, and Frasier thinks that he has a grandson. However, it turns out to be untrue, as Eve is just a young single mom, and Freddie moved her into the apartment so that it would be cheaper to pay rent. And then after that, basically, Frasier was like, listen, why didn't you ask me for money? I would have helped you out. He's like, oh, here we go again. And this is where now the problems start to come out. And so Frasier decides to talk with Freddie. And he asks him, why didn't you come to your grandfather's funeral? And basically, Freddie said, a friend of mine that was like a brother, he died in a fire. You got to remember, Freddie is a firefighter. And he also explains that his friend is the father of that baby and Eve's husband. And that's why she lives with him. And so after that, Frasier apologizes for how he's been acting, especially as a father, towards Freddie. And then in the next scene, we find out that Frasier has decided to stay and he takes the job as a professor. But then Frasier says, listen, why don't you let Eve live over there and you can live with me in this apartment? He's like, no, we can't do that. He's like, we can. I bought the building. Freddie's like, what? He's like, no, how can you do that? He's like, money. I have money. And then after that, Freddie was like, no. And Eve was like, yes. And so Freddie was like, no, we do not agree. And then the final scene of the episode says it all works out with a loving, touching scene with the late, great John Mahoney. Let me tell you something. The writing was superb. As I was watching this episode, I felt I was watching the original series. I mean, all the jokes were on point, and I was laughing from beginning to end. I mean, they really captured the essence of this new Frasier series. For anybody that says that it's not funny, I don't know what you guys are talking about. But it was so well written, And I was looking at something online, right? That said in the original premise for this new reboot series, Frasier and Niles were actually going to buy a theater. However, David Hyde Pierce decided not to continue on with the series. And also, The woman that played Daphne, she had a commitment as well to a television series, so she couldn't leave to do the reboot. But I mean, the loving tribute to John Mahoney, the writing, I mean, and then the end credits. You guys remember how the end credits of Frasier would go? And it's a new remixed version of tossed salads and scrambled eggs. I literally felt like I was transported to 1997, you know, but I want to know what your thoughts were on this episode. Leave it in the comment section below. And like I said, I apologize for this long commentary. If I didn't say it before at the beginning, I'm saying it now. But I'm pretty sure that you enjoyed it. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Peace.